Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting firm Riderflex. If you enjoyed today's guest interview, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe to the Riderflex podcast. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Rachel Coyce on the Riderflex podcast. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Are you in Denver? Are you in Colorado? Where are you today?
Yes. Yeah. North Denver. We are situated, I'm in my home office right between Boulder and Denver, and then work primarily for Simple Switch out of Rhino area of Denver in the Art District.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. I'm up near Loveland, up in northern Colorado as well. So we're not too far from each other.
Yeah, not at all. And I go up there for entrepreneurial events often and have a lot of friends up there. So how lucky are we to live in Colorado, right?
It is pretty nice. I don't want to rub it in for the listeners, but I've interviewed lots of people on the podcast that have lived all over the world. And, they come back here and buy a home and want to live here, even after traveling everywhere else.
Yep.
And lots of business owners and executives that could live wherever they want, but they choose Colorado for just so many reasons, right?
Absolutely. I'm one of the lucky ones, born and raised. Actually, I think 4th or 5th generation Coloradan.
What?
On one side.
Whoa.
Yeah. But I've traveled to 28 countries now, and I absolutely agree with what you just said. I love traveling, and I will continue to travel. But I would love for this to be my forever home base.
That's pretty cool. 4th generation native. Not a ton of those. Not a ton of those.
No, my great grandfather walked wagoned, walked all sorts of different ways. I'm sure from Ellis Island. Actually came through Ellis Island. I've seen his signature there in the books, which was really surreal and cool.
Really.
But so yeah, his generation was our first kind of from Poland, Austria area. And then
I was going to ask you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Coyce, is that Polish originally, or what is that?
Yes, but because of Ellis Island, it was shortened. So Coyce is not a very Polish sounding name, but I think my dad, who knows what the real pronunciation was, be stretching the truth, but something like Koycinski or something like that with the on the end.
I see. Oh, that's pretty cool. Tell me about your childhood then. Tell me about your mom, dad, siblings growing up. Give me a little history there.
Yeah. I grew up not far from here in Brookville, Colorado, and spent a lot of time outdoors in the mountains and adventuring. I have 3 older sisters, but they're quite a bit older than I am. They're all half sisters, so by 12 years. And so I was given a lot of really amazing learning, I think, from watching them, go through their teenage years. And they were all extremely just loving and protective of me and wanted to, I think my parents did this very intentionally and told all 3 of my sisters, we want you to give what you feel like are the best parts of you to Rachel and, be able to really kind of mentor her to be the best of all of you, which, has its own pros and cons, I'm sure, for them, but it was very special for me. My parents were also entrepreneurs, so I give a lot of credit to them for myself being an entrepreneur. They own a personal and commercial real estate company, Coyce Real Estate.
I see.
So if any Colorado listeners are looking to buy a house in this market, I definitely recommend them. But that allowed for them to be home and around a lot, and I got to watch them work from home. And one of our favorite family quotes is my nephew. As I mentioned, my sisters are a lot older, so he's in college now. But when he was a kid, we said, Kyle, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, what do you mean? And we said, look for a job. And he said, I don't think I know anyone with a job. And so it's just because so many people in my family are entrepreneurs and we're working from home and working, their own way. So I'm really lucky because I hear all the time from friends and network, I don't know how I would ever start a company. And for me, it was really normalized from when I was young. So yeah.
Very good.
Happy to give more detail in any of those areas, but that's a great, peek into what I got to experience.
Mom and dad still alive, still healthy, still around?
Yeah. Yeah. Just up the street. I went and and watched the Jimmy Fallon password revamp last night with them. So still get to be really close. And all of my sisters and their kids also still live in Colorado. So close with all my nieces and nephews, ranging from a niece who's finishing her master's degree, all the way down to a nephew who is 3 now. So yeah, I've got an awesome and big family.
Thanksgiving is a big deal around your house, around
it
your
is,
family.
and you would say that with only hearing about my siblings, but I also have 32 first cousins. So the Polish, coastline and the Colorado family we're huge. So, and that's just on my dad's side.
Pretty good. So you said they were half sisters. So obviously your mom or dad was married before they had kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
I'm the only child from my parents' marriage, but they both, and they're around as well. I don't really have much of a relationship with them, but my nieces and nephews are able to, which is great.
Okay. Very good. All right. And how about you? You married, kids, partners, single?
Partner?
What's going on?
Yeah. No kids. Love hanging out with other people's kids, but hope not to have mine for a while. Partner is Sam. He's a training coordinator for an aircraft company and works in, lean manufacturing for luxury aircraft, essentially, which is an industry I know very little about, but can say some words now that we've been together for 3 years and have a lot more. He has a lot of passion around sustainability in flight. As you know, I'm an entrepreneur really concerned with sustainability and social impact. So it's been really cool for me to watch him, use the skills that he has in his industry and then kind of marry them with some of the stuff he's been learning through my network of entrepreneurs and impact entrepreneurs. So I bought a house about 1.5 years ago, and people know me as an entrepreneur, certainly, but I have kind of a backyard homestead going on. So no kids, but 14 chickens and a colony of bees. Cool. And about 1,000 tomatoes. So Steve, if you want to drive down to northern Colorado, I would happily give you 100 tomatoes.
Isn't it interesting? By the way, for the listeners, we're recording this on September 14th. Yes. And right now in Colorado, mid-September in Colorado, if you planted tomatoes, you're getting all you want, right?
They're going. Yeah. And I planted way too many. I'm a big fan of a nonprofit called Denver Urban Gardens. And I went to their plant sale this year to get my seedlings. And I planted 22 tomato plants because not only did they have such interesting kinds of tomatoes, but they also are for a great cause and do some really cool work in Denver.
Good. That's good.
So that means instead of a tomato garden, I really have a tomato jungle this year. And my partner got COVID, and while he was having his time off, and he would spend most of the day in bed, healing and resting, and then get a burst of energy and built us a huge trellis. So our tomatoes are like 10 feet tall this year, and there's 22 of them. So when I say thousands, I'm not exaggerating. So that's been a big part of, very relaxing for me. It's nice to go
it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
To just go outside for half an hour and just kind of mess around and pick some, it's therapeutic. It's therapeutic. Yeah, for sure.
Our next endeavor is building a backyard greenhouse because we're hoping that we can kind of extend our season. So we just went to pick up a free, reclaimed windows greenhouse from someone on Facebook Marketplace, and we have all the materials, and now we're kind of designing the way we want to put them together and hoping we can get that done before the first big snow, which Colorado is always surprised when it wants to do that, but we'll see.
We were talking about how awesome it is to live in Colorado, and it is awesome, but the growing vegetable flower season, it's pretty damn short. Yeah.
It is,
so
yeah.
So if you can get a little greenhouse
next
action,
year, my goal next year, which I've never had success with before, but I think I'm better set up, is to do some indoor starts, under grow lights and things for some of these things, because then that just extends, they have a little bit more traction when I put them in the ground outside then.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that'd be awesome. When you were going to school, I noticed that you got your undergrad in arts and theater and things like that. Were you thinking, I want to be an actor? Were you thinking I want to be a teacher? What was I was just curious.
Yeah. And that's fun. A lot of people don't bring that up in podcast episodes with me anymore, but it's a huge part of my life. I double majored at CU Boulder, in business entrepreneurship and then theater performance, which is too much I will say, I think it's still true that I'm the only one who's ever done that particular double major, because
Wow.
the BFA in theater performance is actually already the credit load of two majors. You get a theater degree and then you get a BFA, which is, instead of a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Fine Arts. So you have something like 10, I'm forgetting now, it's been a while, but something like 10 hours of studio time a week, and you're required to be in a show every semester. I 18-year-old me, I love to sing and I love to act, and I love to dance. I do a lot less dancing now, but 18-year-old me was very excited about kind of the Broadway track. And so I knew I wanted to do some musical theater. CU Boulder has, this could have changed. So this is not for, students considering it, but at the time they had a pretty new musical theater program that was a little disjointed. So I didn't want to do that, but they had an excellent theater acting program. And then they, that fed really nicely into the musical theater world and those shows. So yeah, I decided to go there. I planned to double major. I also thought, which I'm so thankful I didn't do this, because I just don't think it would be the right fit for me at all. But I also thought I might want to be a counselor. I was someone who a lot of people, my friends and even just acquaintances, would come to kind of vent and talk about their problems. And I loved to just be a listening ear for them. And so I thought maybe that would be a good thing to do professionally. Now I have incredible friends who are counselors professionally and are fantastic at it. And I cannot imagine doing what they do. So I'm really thankful that I don't do it. But essentially my parents said, psychology degree and theater degree, what if you maybe double majored instead with something like business or something like engineering, so that you have a fallback that would actually pay you something? Because, to go be a counselor, you need a lot of degrees and it takes a long time. And I was very angsty about that at the time, but I decided, okay, fine, I'll do a business degree. I was an entrepreneur from a really young age. Like I said, it was normalized for me. So, I thought that way. And my dad is also alongside the real estate project management professor at the time at CU Boulder, now at CU Denver, and several other programs, including a nonprofit university in Denver for kind of people who wouldn't have the income to go to a typical accredited university. And so if I wanted something, anything, a new pair of the cool wheelie shoes, whatever it might be, would ask me to write a project plan for it. And so I was writing business plans at a young age. And I'm really thankful for that, because another thing that was just normalized for me. But for that reason, I had started, I think my very earliest business was, I would, at family gatherings, like you mentioned, Thanksgiving, give like a head massage or a shoulder rub for money. And I made little magnets and I handed them out to my friends and family. That was my addressable market at the time. And that's how I took advantage of it. Right. And then in high school, I'm a big Harry Potter nerd, big fan of Harry Potter. And for one of the movies coming out, I had just learned to knit, and I decided, hey, I just post on Facebook, very casual. If anyone wants me to knit them a Harry Potter scarf for the movie, like, let me know. And I was expecting maybe 2 or 3, and I think got 30 people ask for one that day. So I realized, I wouldn't have said it this way at the time, but essentially I said, there's demand for this, right? So I need to start charging. Really what it was at the time was, I can't make this many scarves without getting a little bit of money to pay for, the materials in my time, which, I'm glad. And so actually throughout all of high school and all of college, I sold knitted hats and scarves and things like that. So
interesting.
That was my first, real
right.
business. And I made a lot of, side money that way and savings.
Okay.
So,
and I noticed that hats and scarves are prominent on the website and for your business right now today.
They are, yeah, not made by me, thankfully anymore. Yeah. We have a lot of cooler suppliers, but yeah. So anyways, all of that led me to say, okay, well, I've always enjoyed that. So I could do a business degree. Sure. Like that'll be my fallback. And pretty immediately freshman year, really fell in love with it. I was expecting that, theater would be the thing that I wanted to do professionally, and business could be, a good complement. But I very quickly in my classes, and CU has an awesome business school, so I was really lucky. But yeah, I very quickly started hearing from professors and peers about the work that they were doing to make a positive impact with their business. And another part of my, childhood and background was, like I said, spent a lot of time outside. So I cared a lot about the natural world and the environment. And, Rocky Mountain National Park was a playground. I definitely wanted to keep it clean and keep it healthy. And then had the opportunity to travel at a young age for kind of mission and service work as well with my family. So seeing the impacts of poverty from, a young age, I think was a privilege that I've had that understanding for a lot longer than a lot of people, just by, nature of being there and seeing it. And yeah, so being able to see like, wow, business can do a lot of good. I had in my head, corporate sharks and, just some really out of alignment with my values kind of business dealings. And so to learn that we could make this much impact was, I just really fell in love with that idea. And so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with that, but, stopped resenting the fact that I was majoring in business and really enjoyed my theater degree as well and my classmates there. But by the end, had the idea for Simple Switch actually my senior year of undergrad.
Oh, you did?
So
okay.
I knew that was where I was headed. I got the chance to do a summer business consulting in South Africa through Leeds, through Deming Center, which is the entrepreneurship school. And got to do business consulting for under-resourced entrepreneurs. And I had never enjoyed anything more than I enjoyed that. It was hard work. It was the hardest I've ever worked, I'm sure. Probably not anymore, but at that point. And the fact that I enjoyed it so much, I think really steered me in okay, what can I do that's going to use my skills and talents in that same way and empower, business owners around the world and just change the economy to be one that's really in alignment with my values. Right. And I really still enjoyed the theater program, and they have a really great, just kind of wrapping that story up, because I still love theater, but I haven't done much of it.
Have you been?
School.
Yeah. I was gonna say, have you been in any shows lately?
No.
Okay.
I've done, a fair amount of singing type of stuff, and I actually was just given as a gift the piano that I grew up playing on and things like that. So I still definitely love it and use it, and I love going to see shows and things at the Buell, things like that. I still am very in love with it. And maybe when Simple Switch settles a little bit and I have a bigger team and I don't have to hold so much of it, I could see doing, community shows here and there. But by senior year, I knew that what I wanted to do after school was business and was entrepreneurship. So,
and you said you had the idea. You said you had the idea for Simple Switch. Now at the time, I'm guessing you didn't have the name in your head settled yet, but you had the concept. Were you thinking about the concept? Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm trying to think of when we did officially decide on the name, and I do think it wasn't short. It wasn't long after I graduated that I came up with the name. The two I was considering were Simple Switch or Buy Better. But a couple things. I think I did a lot of, I would maybe call it user testing now, but it was just in my personal network, a lot of asking people what they thought.
And of course you had this network because these are the same people that were buying your hats and scarves.
That's right. Yeah. Or my business classmates or my theater classmates, anyone who, I was also in a sorority in college. So a lot of them kind of knew that I was heading in this direction as well. I've always been a very social person. I've been called aggressively friendly, is I think a good way to say it. So lots of people in my network, and I would not be who I am without them and their support. It's incredible. So
you're very social. You're very social, and also I'm guessing your time management expertise has to be very high because you had a lot going on with a double major. And
I love that,
and theater and travel,
sorority leadership,
sorority,
that's why I say, it's probably too much. It was probably, some semesters were easier than others, but I definitely could have gotten, I think, more out of the actual class part of school if I would have done less. But the connections that I made and the inspiration, I'm here today because I had that idea because of an internship, and a huge shout out to the Deming Center and to Eric Mueller, who is still to this day my mentor. And he's the one who led that internship, and he's the head of the entrepreneurship school there. So, but I do say, I think I learned more in that 6 or 8 week internship than I learned in my 4 years at CU. And that's no dig on CU. It's just, it was hands-on impactful work. And so I was gaining so much, both learning and experience and inspiration from that.
Don't you think it's tremendously valuable for young people to travel to other countries, third world countries, where and see what other people live like, and some real poverty, where they're struggling just to get fresh water. Right. Mm-hmm. I think young people come back with a whole new outlook on life and what it's,
And I would add there that the reason because like I said, I had been traveling to do that kind of work and kind of have that perspective, from a young age, from, 5 or 8, elementary school age. And I think what made that one so helpful is we had, we were in teams, we were working with students from South Africa on these solutions. It was what I would want to caution people against is going on those trips just for kind of the feel good, whether that be the feel good of the helping that you're doing or the phew, if I'm glad I'm not in that situation that you get when you come back, right? That's not healthy or helpful for anyone. And instead being able to go in and kind of partner with them, ask, what do you need? What of my limited college age skills can I share with you? Going in with that humility, I think, is the really important thing. And that's just very important to me. Kind of when we look at the word sustainability, right, we don't want to have this white savior complex or any kind of, colonialism behind that kind of thing. And some of those communities are perfectly happy, and we might see, cultural. One of my favorite examples is when I was traveling in Peru, just to have you kind of like, my perspective shifted upside down, because I could have gone to Peru, been driving around, seen, they certainly were lower income, or at least it looked like it to me in these neighborhoods I was in. And I was asking, someone I was there with, a local, about some of the housing, and it was unfinished. It just looked very, they were probably a lot, in my perspective, I don't know that I consciously thought this, but subconsciously certainly was, they're too poor to finish their houses. And they were telling me, oh no, actually you go inside, those houses are really nice. It's just that tax law here means that you don't have to pay property taxes until your outer structure is finished. And so they leave it like that because it's like tax evasion essentially, in like a really scrappy and like wise way. They are not finishing that, and that's just not a priority. So I think the importance in what you're saying is so true, with the caveat of going in to be a learner, right? And just being able to learn and have your perspective shifted.
Was there a key moment or a pivot moment or something that happened where you saw a landfill or a bunch of trash, or was there something that really like, okay, sustainability, or that just gradually happened because you grew up in Colorado and like you said, you loved the outdoors, or was there a couple of moments that just really you're like, dadgummit, we got to do something about this?
I think on the social impact side, I remember really specifically a moment in one of my classes at CU, in their Caesar program, which is corporate responsibility, their corporate responsibility program and ethics, and learning about the factories that are pretty famous now, but I'm sure lots of people still don't know, in Bangladesh, that collapsed. They're major garment factories. I'm sure you and I have both, worn clothes that were made there. It's a huge part of the industry. Collapsed and killed hundreds of people. And we had kind of a discussion style class that day about how much responsibility we have as consumers in that situation. And actually the thing I think that set me off on it so bad is that I had classmates who said, that this is just capitalism. Like, we shouldn't have to worry about those people. And that was really infuriating for me. And, I'm like, no, we do not get to do that. We don't get to act like that and just wipe our hands of hundreds of people's lives that are caused by, our spending habits. And that was before I think I was probably a sophomore. So that was before I had jumped up Simple Switch. And then on the sustainability side, this goes back to childhood too. I mean, what doesn't? I grew up with a mom who recycled before it was cool, and a grandmother who would, pull over on the side of the road to pick up litter, and she was, composting her food scraps. I don't know if she would have even looked at it I think she would, from a, environmental standpoint. It wasn't so much, she's passed away now, and she probably looked at it more of just it's a community responsibility to care for our earth and keep it clean and keep it healthy. And for her, composting was a lot about gardening, which is where I get a lot of my gardening, I think. And she loved bees, both because of they are fascinating and the honey, but also for environmental reasons. So those things. And yeah, growing up in Colorado, I got to go on field trips to see, water treatment plants. And I remember so vividly the saying, keep it clean because we're all downstream. And yes, I'm sure that was from third grade. So it really stuck with me, So I think it more gradual. I'm thinking, thinking of adult moments. After I had started Simple Switch, 2018, so random. I saw probably a social media video about this randomly at the end of December 2017.
Okay.
That there was a community in Japan who essentially was doing zero waste, which is, you hear zero waste thrown around a lot. We tend to say low waste almost always because zero waste is a little too simplified, right? We love lower, reduced waste. But this community in Japan was really doing, all compostable, all recyclable. And the way that they were pulling that off was just excellent education around waste reduction and what that would look like. And, where, how we have none of that, or at least just terrible amounts of it here in the US. And I watched it in, 5-minute little mini documentary video. And it was really inspiring to me for my own personal life. And I was trying to think of, New Year's resolutions I wanted to do for 2018. And I was thinking a lot about how can I make my life more intentional? Not necessarily around environment or anything, but as I was brainstorming, what I want this year to be about next year, intentionality, what can I do to just have every decision I make be more on purpose? And I think watching this clicked for me that I throw things away, and that is super unintentional. It's just,
Yep.
You hear in my industry a lot, there is no away, right? And that's kind of the landfill thing you mentioned, right? If we're throwing something away, we're not actually like, where is away? It's just a landfill and it is having, a negative impact there. So for all of 2018, and this is, you don't have to go as hard as I went in order to make this impact in your life. But for all of 2018, I vowed to every single thing that I consumed, that I bought or ate or held, I had to either compost it or recycle it, or I had to keep it. So I had like a laundry bag. I wonder if it's in here. A laundry bag in my room, and any trash that would go to the landfill that I couldn't recycle or compost, I had to keep for the whole year. And so my intention was to kind of weigh that and track it and try to reduce it month to month. I did not succeed at that. I just, life got busy, but I did have at the 6-month mark in June, was able to weigh the landfill trash that I had.
Okay.
And man, I wish I had the stats in front of me. I have them written down, but I think, so don't quote me on this, I think the average US resident makes something like 150 pounds of landfill trash every month. And my bag, and Steve, this for me, it wasn't about this like huge lifestyle change and reduction. I was still eating most of the same things. It was just, what am I going to do
with this
how
container?
Am I going to show myself?
It
for me, it really was about the intentionality. Like I can still eat these Oreos, but then I'm going to have to keep this Oreo like plastic sleeve as a consequence. And sometimes that for me, I love Oreos. And so for me, that was worth it. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to have this, but I don't get to kid myself into thinking that it doesn't create a consequence. That was what it was about for me. And so without making, I'm sure I made, some lifestyle changes. I would try to buy things with better packaging that I knew was recyclable, so I wouldn't have to keep it in my bedroom. But with just a little bit of lifestyle change and a lot of just better waste sorting, especially with composting. I went from 150 pounds, which was average, which I may have been a little lower than that before. I don't know. I had 6 pounds of landfill trash in 6 months.
Wow.
And part of that is
that's how much of a difference people can make if they really are intentional.
Yeah. Just intentionality, right? Like, so
all right.
I don't do that anymore. It's not like but it was funny. I was dating a guy at the time who called me weird trash girl, affectionately, because we would go out on a date and I would, the waitress would come by and say, "Oh, can I take your plate?" And I'd say, "I'm so sorry. I actually have to keep this." And she'd be like, what? And I was like, I'm doing this experiment, just to kind of train myself more about waste reduction. Or then I would say, well, do you guys compost? Like, what will you do with this? Because if you'll compost it, awesome. But like, if not, I need to take it over compost.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, anyways, it really helped, I think, shift my just daily sustainability perspective and made me take that more seriously just because I understood the consequences better, right? And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have learned a lot about what's recyclable and compostable because
If you're listening to this episode and you've never been to a landfill, just go out and visit one. Just go out and
I
just
actually have
drive to
never
it.
been either. I've seen a lot of videos, but I should go and
Uh,
visit as well.
it's shocking. I mean, for me, it was I don't know if no shocking is not even the right word. It was emotional.
Yeah.
I had an emotional reaction to it. I just you're like, oh wow, we're actually doing this.
Yeah.
We're
Maybe
all doing it.
harrowing, you know, and
Yes, I was yeah, it's
not
tough.
only the taking up space, which I think is what kind of smacks people. And I would actually be curious. What do you feel like was emotional about it for you? Can you like name that?
I think the emotion for me was we don't we forget about it. We kind of
It's the
separated.
intentionality piece,
We
right?
separated.
Yeah.
We don't think
Hmm.
about it. We don't see it, out of sight, out of
Definitely.
mind.
Yeah.
But it's real and it's happening it's yeah. It shocked me into being a better person when it comes to recycling. And I'm nothing near what you are, but I definitely was more intentional after visiting that.
I
And
love it.
same for last time I went to Mexico. You know, I don't know if you've been to Cabo or Cancun and all that, but I mean,
Yeah.
when you're going from the airport to the resort,
To resort. Yeah.
all you got to do is look around during those few miles, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, okay, yeah, this is not good.
Definitely. Yeah. Lots of waste around. And it is interesting how much, that intersects the social and environmental impact. There's a reason that we focus on both with Simple Switch is I don't think they're, you can't separate them really.
Yes.
Because, you have seen, that's such a good point, what you say about, from the airport to the resort, right? Things are cleaned up where they need to be cleaned up and hidden
That's
where they
right.
need to be hidden, right?
Yes.
But we actually work with an organization that certifies companies as plastic neutral, and so it's similar to what a carbon neutral is. With which, for those who don't know about this, and that's totally fair. Carbon neutrality would mean my company or you as a person, if you're buying a flight or something, means the emissions, carbon emissions, carbon footprint, whatever term feels accessible to you, that you're putting out into the world by a certain action or my business
Mm,
practices, stuff like that.
mhm,
You
mhm.
are paying to to pull essentially that same amount of emissions out of the atmosphere or invest in technologies that will, which is a
I
really cool
see.
model. Definitely a trend, I would say, transition model, right? It's not what's going to save us. We can't just rely on like only offsets, but it is a very cool thing to be doing in the meantime. We're a climate neutral company for that reason. But we also work with this company for plastic neutral, which is the same concept. So any plastic waste, that especially low value plastic waste, which would mean not easily recyclable, that we're putting out, then we pay to have that same amount pulled from the waste stream and to make sure that we're not just contributing that to that drive that you have in Mexico. But
I see.
one thing that super struck me is this organization, Repurpose Global is the name. Highly recommend following along with them. But
Okay.
they also are really, really concerned with, fair wages and fair working conditions for people
No.
who work in waste, because that's something that is, if we think our waste is made invisible, the way that people are treated who have to deal with our waste is terrible. I learned from them that the average life expectancy of someone working
Mhm.
in, a waste center in a landfill and those kind of things, especially in some of the more prevalent countries where that's popular. So like Indonesia and other in that area, is 30, like because of the
Uh,
toxins and the dangers and, some of those things. So they are not only, going out and doing trash pickups, which is great and valuable to make that neutrality of the plastics and the waste, but they're also investing in, better waste treatment centers and making sure that the people there are treated fairly and given breaks and have safety equipment that they need and things like that. So
Yeah,
but those things are just so hand in hand.
that's another place to visit if you've never been there. Go to a water treatment plant or a waste treatment plant and visit.
Yeah.
That is also emotional. It's so funny you bring that up about the workers for those places. I actually Riderflex, our recruiting firm, that's our day job. We got a client that what they did was they refurbished the tanks for these water treatment plants. They redid the lining for these water
Interesting.
treatment plants. Now you can imagine you empty the waste out of those tanks that have been sitting in there for years and years and years, and then you had to get in there and scrape and clean the waste. And he told me, he said, I said, how do you find people to do that? And he said, look, he said, if I need 50 people, he goes, I hire 100 come in, and within the first 4 or 5 hours, they drop to 50 because they just can't do it. They just quit. So to your point, people that do those types of jobs, I mean, wow, hey, kudos to you. And we probably should pay them more because that is a very difficult environment. Anyway, I didn't mean to go down that tangent, but
then we look at the no, it's good. I mean, then we look at the economy of it, and we're like, we should pay them more, which means some things that we buy need to cost more in that case, or we need need to have more public funding, which is going to make people mad because of taxes. Like there's high level economic and public policy issues that have to be addressed if we want these things solved. And part of that is why we exist, because the products that you then buy from us do look into these things. We say when we're looking at sustainability, we talk whether it's social or environmental. We say how it's made, how it's packaged, how it's shipped, how it's used, and how it's tossed. Those are all, it's a nuanced look at all 5 of those things. And we are able to see the transparency behind those products in our case on Simple Switch, but it's really rare in kind of the normal capitalist economy that we have for those things to be transparent. And unfortunately, that's really on purpose, right? Because we are able to kind of just not care about those things if they are hidden from us. And
if they're hidden,
ignorance is bliss, right?
I want you to, I want to get into Simple Switch and have you do an overview. But before we go there, I want to summarize really for people. One of the best ways to look at the environment and when it comes to sustainability is just remember it's not going anywhere. The waste is not going into outer space. The sewage is not going into outer space. The water's not disappearing to another planet and then we're getting new water. No, it's all here, and it's doing this. It's doing this, and we're every single thing we touch and do. The water evaporates, it goes back up, the water gets treated, goes in the river, it comes out of the river, it goes into the lake, and then we drink it, and it waste. Everything is just doing this, and that's the key.
Which is why we're starting to see plastics in newborn babies, right? Because it's that actually is ending up in our blood. So, but before we go on, I want to say something that's really important to me, because now we've talked about a lot of doomsday stuff around social and environmental right now. And a huge thing for us is that, frankly, I feel like if people stopped the episode right now, they would not go take action about it. And people, maybe that's a hot take, but looking at the brain chemistry of it, if people feel overwhelmed by the hugeness of the problems that we just discussed, which are important, and it's good to educate yourself, but as a company and as a person, it's really important to me to be solutions-based and empowering. And one of the words we use is winsome, because on the flip side of everything we've just talked about are these incredible solutions that are full of hope and excitement, and telling those stories is what we focus on. So instead of, go look at a landfill and just feel bad, right? Which I do think is a really profound way to,
that's a good way to shock yourself into it.
But and it's cool that, you've, started taking action for that reason, but it could, and this is usually subconscious. I'm not saying anyone's going to go and then be like, okay, I can't think about that anymore. But, we want, as humans, the way that we function is by hits of dopamine, right? And so if instead, here's what's inspired me is EcoCycle. We're so lucky. We have a very cool recycling infrastructure in Colorado that's somewhat rare, and one of the best in the country. But going to EcoCycle and being able to see their incredible machine that sorts the recycling, and then learning about the recycling industry and the supply and demand of it, the parts that fascinate you and make you excited and that you enjoy, that's what should be focused on, because those are the things that are gonna, frankly, just from a brain chemistry perspective, that's what's going to motivate you to take more action. As a business owner, as an individual, any of it, if you're saying, wow, recycling is so cool, and I have an understanding of it, and I'm so interested, I can recycle my glass bottle, and then that is going to go into my next beer. I'm a big craft beer person, so I love that in Colorado we have this great infrastructure for glass recycling, and now aluminum with Ball. But this tone of voice that I'm using now, instead of like, yes, there are these terrible working conditions, which is true. And like, it's such a balance, because we say ease without apathy. That's one of our company values.
Okay.
Because I want people to be able to, our whole mission is making it easy and convenient for people to shop in alignment with their values, people's and businesses. And that doesn't mean I want to remove them from the realities of the problems that we're solving. So that's where the without apathy comes in. But it has to be both. It doesn't just get to be like doomsday shaming people, trying to trick people into making this impact. It's just not going to work. And we've seen companies try, we've seen nonprofits try. It doesn't work. So we just have to make it easier. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. So for the listeners, let's do a simple switch overview. So it's simpleswitch.org. Simpleswitch.org.
As well as Simple Switch ethical shopping on Android or iPhone if you prefer a mobile app experience.
I saw that you have the app. That's wonderful. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, very good. Website's great, by the way. Love it. Love the story. Love everything about it. Why don't you give the listeners, give us the elevator pitch about Simple Switch? Sure. Just go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Simple Switch. We are the online marketplace for ethical and sustainable shopping. So what that means, we get nicknamed Amazon with a heart, or the sustainable Amazon, often by our customers, or people at parties that I'm, explaining this to. And we are trying to just make the online shopping industry one that is transparent, that you can go have that same ease and convenience. You don't have to be scared that it's going to be a ton of work, because that's why I started it, is I was trying to shift my spending. I mentioned the South Africa trip, and I came back and said, well, what can I do to make change? And I'm too busy. As you said, I was totally overloaded in that season of my life. So I said, okay, well, I'm spending money on things, right? So at least, I have a good enough understanding of the economy to know that money matters, and who I'm spending it with matters, whether that be small businesses or impactful businesses. So I made a personal commitment to, I think it was like 80% of my spending. I wanted to be confident that it was going towards a company I could believe in and could feel proud of. Okay. It was so much work, Steve. I couldn't do it. I think it lasted maybe a week where, doing that, if I needed a new pair of pants, I would have to spend hours online researching, what kind of certifications really matter. And, is this really having an impact? And all of that confusion. And even if it was easy to find, I was having to have 12 tabs open to buy everything I needed that week. Meanwhile, Amazon was really taking off, getting easier and easier, one click buy on your phone, press this button and you get everything you need, very easy. And as, someone who, as I said, was starting to get fascinated by the world of entrepreneurship and business, that was a huge gap for me. And it was, I just have never looked back. I knew that that's the problem I've wanted to solve. So
you do all that work for it. You do all that work for me. You find the products.
Right.
I already
exactly.
know. Yeah, I already know. If the product's on your website, I'm good to go. I don't have to look anything up. I don't have to study it. Yep.
You put it all in one cart. So, a cart could look like recently I saw a sale come through that's new sheets for someone's bed who, this happens to be a friend of mine. So I knew they were moving. So say you're moving, you need to stock some things for your house, right? So they've got some home decor. They've got new sheets for their bed. The home decor is fighting human trafficking, making fair wage jobs in third world nations. The sheets are made of sustainable bamboo and, reduce water waste, all sorts of, they have incredible impact, frankly.
Cool.
But then they also had toilet paper and coffee and I think a gift for their mom, like, some earrings that they wanted to give, my mom's birthday's coming up. I better just throw that in my cart. And so, it's a huge variety. I think we have about 7,000 products now. And that
7,000. Okay.
And that's the most quickly growing part of our business. That's why I say, I think, because it gets away from me how many we're able to add. That's part of the business is really growing.
Oh, and I'm sure you're adding new stuff every day. You're probably adding new stuff all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. 7,000. So 7,000 SKUs right now. Are you just the marketplace hub for to connect the buyer to the seller and the seller ships it from their warehouse, or how are you doing it?
They do. Yep. Okay. Yep. They sell. So we are a dropship model, and for now intend to stay that way. We may do some in-house fulfillment of things like sample boxes or gift boxes to help people kind of get started and break in and, kind of start understanding what we have. So we're considering options for that, but otherwise, it works great because our whole mission is to bring uplift and more success to these businesses that are already making this incredible impact. We don't feel like we have to reinvent the wheel and make all these products or even warehouse these products. We just want to help them grow. And sometimes that looks like, bringing them more product sales. But one of my favorite parts of running this business is that I'm also able to give them resources. As we vet the brands, we have them answer a ton of questions about, their impact and their staff and all of those things. But one of the things that we make them sign in their agreement with us is a commitment to improve. And all the companies we work with already have an awesome social or environmental impact, or both. They already have a model based around that kind of impact. So it's not, we're not working with companies that are kind of just like slapping on one product that's made of recycled materials, to cover the sins of all the other products they sell, right? We're working with companies that this is in their bones. And, but even so, we know what, I've talked about our company values a few times. One of ours is iterate often. So if we're getting feedback from experts on social or environmental, impact, we're going to listen to that and make changes in our company. And we ask that our partners do the same. So one of my favorite parts is I get to then facilitate these relationships between, maybe we have, an amazing snack brand that has just incredible packaging options that are, backyard compostable, and they've done the work to really get that done. But then we have another company that is, incredible model to fight labor exploitation and, human trafficking and sexual exploitation, like terrible things. And they are, running a fair wage and like employment training program to fight that problem, but maybe they're still using plastic packaging. So we're able to bring those partners together to create even more impact through these models that are already very impactful. Very good. That's one of my favorite part, is just being able to do those things. But that doesn't mean I need to be packaging these products, right? I can just make these introductions and create the relationships and get them clients. Frankly, we have people buying from us, but now we're also looking at like large companies. We're looking at university contracts and getting very good. We're kind of out here to change the economy, really. This is not a small thing we're working on.
What'd you call it? The heart or the something Amazon, something
I don't usually pitch us that way, but that's what we get nicknamed. So Amazon with a heart. I think
Amazon with a heart.
Especially we're raising from investors right now, which anyone listening to this can be an investor in Simple Switch because of the way we've structured that, by the way. But, and I'm happy to explain more about that. It's pretty fascinating. But we, as we're talking with investors and myself as a business owner who's deep in this business, there are so many differences between the way that Amazon has structured, things. I don't pitch us that way because I know how different we are from them. We're not doing that. Amazon Web Services, there's all these things. And we're not trying to, just pick a fight with Amazon. That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to create another option so that people who, do want this transparency and the impact, which frankly, I think is everyone. So, I think it certainly could turn into, a competitor with Amazon, but our goal is to really empower them and be able to be the solution for them.
I'm guessing your number one hurdle is you just need to get more products, because people come to the website and they're like, man, I really want to buy from you, but you don't have what I'm looking for.
People often, well, I'm curious, is the reason that you say that because you wanted to buy something from us and couldn't find it? Or are you just thinking of that from like a hypothetical perspective?
Yeah, I'm wondering, is your shopper an intentional shopper? Like, I need a new pair of boots. I want to make sure they're sustainable, so I'm going to go to Simple Switch.
A lot of times, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Or is it the department
online
store
shopping addict?
Is it like a TJ Maxx shopper who's like, I don't even know what I want today, but I want to go to the store and look around?
Well, I think it becomes a combination of both. Usually I think people will come to our website, especially if they've heard of us before, right? Our existing community, we have thousands of people who are really excited about our mission. Some of whom who've been around since we had 100 products. And so those people are like, they're ready to buy from us, no matter what. But they'll come to the site looking for, I need a new pair of shoes. They'll even sometimes email us, which you guys are welcome to do if you're looking for a product and can't find it on Simple Switch. We'd love to then go out and do the work to make sure to source that product for you.
Great.
Right now, our focus, and B2C is so important to us, and empowering individual consumers is so important to us. But that part has really been built out over the last 3 years and is healthy. And, we're always optimizing, but it's not the main focus. Right now, that shift to businesses and selling to businesses is our main focus.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that could double, triple your revenue overnight.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a piece of content coming out that says, yeah, definitely triple our revenue, but also the impact, right? And
Yeah.
because it becomes cyclical where, as we bring on a business, whether, so let's just say Riderflex, right? Your business.
Mhm.
We bring on a business, you guys start buying, your toilet paper and your coffee for your office.
Yeah.
As simple as that, right? Two things.
Yep. Yep.
Then we are able to provide then impact reporting for you guys to show that
Cool.
you're practicing what you preach with your values.
Cool.
Then that reporting goes to your customers who then hear about the fact that they could be making those
Oh.
purchases and that impact too. And then the cycle keeps going because we empower our B2C customers with content on here's how to convince your boss to buy more, more sustainable products. Here's how to pressure, businesses in your neighborhood to, use more sustainable, whatever that might look like.
I like it. I like
so
it.
it really like goes around and around,
That's
which
good.
is cool.
How big is the company right now as far as employees? How many people you got on the team? Yeah.
So I'm the only full-time person, and like I said, we're raising our
How
first
are
round of
you
funding
doing
right
that?
now.
How are you now? You move pretty fast, and your work ethic is obviously super high based on all of your. How the hell are you finding? How are you doing this with us? How are you doing?
I'm at the end of where it makes sense. That's why we're raising funding is because we'll grow the team and to grow our capacity because I've been able to scrap a lot of this together, and because we have an incredible community, and great tools. We have really worked hard to make this
7,000 SKUs, and you don't have any employees. I don't know how you got.
I don't know just how you did full-time employees. No, to say that I'm doing it alone. So let me caveat that I'm just only full-time, which really, really soon I hope to change that, like as soon as we can. But I know
a really cool recruiting firm to help you find out.
Well, I do thankfully have a lot of people who are part-time who I'm just ready as soon as I can pay them. I'll stay on. But I'll let you know if I need recruiting.
Let's mention that for the listeners. Are you in what are you calling it? Yeah, angel seed. Where?
Yeah, so we are calling it our community round. So we're raising it through WeFunder. This is for those familiar in the investing space. It's a regulation crowdfunding round. So Reg CF through the SEC. Okay. WeFunder is very similar to like Republic or Seed Invest, anything that is allowing for the legal investment in a startup from the crowd. So that's why I say anyone listening do that.
Will you talk to angels?
The investment minimum.
Will you talk to angels?
We will, and we are. So let me know if you have any.
Okay. I want to talk to you about that offline. What are you raising right now?
I think we had a delay.
I want to talk to you about that offline. Yeah. What are you raising right now? What's your target?
Oh, yeah, our round size through WeFunder is 250,000.
Okay.
And we are coming up on our first milestone. This is somewhat new for us, but our first milestone is 50,000, and that's when we will. Technically, our investments up to this point are investment reservations because we haven't filed that with the SEC.
I see.
That's all sounds really complicated. If you're listening and you want to invest, all you have to do is go online and use a credit card. Minimum is $100, but yeah.
But you're up and running. I mean, what's great about your timeline right now with your raise is this is not just an idea you're pitching. You're up, you're running. There's products. There's 7,000 products. You got revenue. You got people putting stuff in the cart. You got cash coming in. I mean. You're way ahead of some of these entrepreneurs where it's like, oh, I got an idea. Look at my PowerPoint.
It has been so interesting because I didn't start this from a place where I even understood that could be an option, right? I started this and it seems our investors really like this, which makes sense to me. Yeah. I started it from a very lean bootstrap. Our expenses are low, the way we're growing, but the reason we're fundraising is to push us in the big league. So it's
I love it.
I obviously legally need to make sure I've mentioned I can't guarantee this, but I think it's going to be a great investment because we are, like you said, we already have traction, and then we're really pushing to make some huge change, and that comes with huge revenues. So.
We should. I could probably do a whole nother episode with you and ask some more questions. I know we're running out of time. Let me get a couple in here real quick. Is there any way to, and I'm sure you've thought about this, is there any way to have Simple Switch as a brand be on Amazon? And I can use my Amazon account and only buy products from Simple Switch, or is that not possible?
It's not. It is possible. Absolutely. I could do that tomorrow, and I've had people ask this question. Our reason for not doing that is because the actual products are only one part of the impact that people make by shopping with us. They are buying and making that what I call double net positive impact because they're taking away the spending from a negative product they might have bought and divesting from that. and then investing that same money into the product that makes the positive impact. But on top of that, they are also supporting, our growth as Simple Switch when they make that purchase instead of Amazon's growth, who frankly has had enough growth. But yeah, the other thing is there's some really bummer stuff going on with the way Amazon treats their suppliers. So they own a lot of the data, right? Not only, what we think about a lot is how they treat their workers, which is super important. We hear negative stories about that all the time. So we would prefer not to support even their shipping infrastructure. But the other thing is, what I hear now that I work with suppliers is that if someone sells on Amazon and they're doing really well, because Amazon has all that data analytics, they are then able to go in and create a competitive product, and it actually really hurts the company.
I see.
That is selling there. So we're not interested in doing that. We could, and I love that innovation idea, but we won't.
Your model, of course, though, is similar because you're just taking, you're connecting the consumer to the supplier, and you're taking a piece, and that's your model, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
Same. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Very good. Are you paying yourself? Are you paying yourself? Or are you eating ramen noodles, or how are you living, Rachel?
Not yet. No, I've done and that's another thing where I say, I was so close. This funding round, we're in such an interesting transition where I'm going to a conference next week with executives and directors only, Fortune 500 companies, to talk to them about climate solutions and have them as clients, right? So at the same time that I'm working with those companies, I am trying to close this, small funding round in order to be able to pay my salary. So I'm in a weird transition. I fortunately have, I lived with my parents for the beginning of my starting the company and was able to save for a house. So my expenses are low.
Are your mom and dad?
I run an Airbnb.
Did your mom, did they have a little angel investment? They own a little piece or whatever?
Yeah, they're one of our WeFunder investors. They have put in, I would say average amount. They, are not these huge angel high web. They've never invested before. They're big in real estate, obviously, since that's what they do for a living.
I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
I think it's really cool. You hit it on the head. I know we're out of time here. As long as it's easy and fast, and you got the app and everything, and then that way, the consumer can check your website first, for sure.
Exactly. That is our favorite thing to say, right? We're at 7,000 products. We're growing all the time. That means we might not have what you need yet. We might not. And the very best thing you can do, check there first. If you don't find it, do shoot us a chat or an email or an Instagram DM, whatever you love, to just let us know. Because we would love to, if you're trying to buy something from us, we want to have it for you. And we'll do the work to make sure we're sourcing that product, right? We're doing it as fast as we can.
I love that. Simpleswitch.org. Rachel, thank you so much. Hang on. I'm going to stop the recording, but hang on just a minute before you hang up. Okay. Thank you for being on the show.
Great.